Mani Pacharane, Nivasesha Sunyavadi, Praschatya Desatarane. Om Agyanatimirandasya Janajana Salakaya Chaksusamilitanjena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasindu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pabhinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. What an incredible class describing the Leelas of Krishna and Srmati Radharani. It is such a deep subject, and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, he talks about these intimate things, these intimate pastimes in a very special way. He says that these things are not to be spoken about in public, actually. But I fearlessly speak about them because I know that those who are not qualified will not actually understand them. And why is it so difficult to understand the pastimes of Sri Radha and Krishna? It is because, why? Because they're very easy to understand on one level. They're such attractive pastimes, Leela's stories, but so really difficult to understand them because we have material concepts, and those material concepts are reflected by these stories. Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita and also in speaking, he mentioned that there was one man saying, Radhe, 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 and he was crying. And you know this story? Yeah, everyone knows this story. Maybe I won't tell it. But someone said, oh, you're so advanced devotee, you're crying? And he said, yes, I'm thinking of Radha, the barber's wife. So this is the problem. And this is why Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas really stressed following the rules and regulations properly so that our mind doesn't become contaminated with false concepts. And what's a false concept? A false concept is one where I am the center, ahankara vamudama. The very essence of material existence is ahankara. From ahankara combined with the three modes of material nature, the entirety of material existence spreads according to Sri Kapila Dev in the third canto of the Bhagavatam. So Devi Shakti Mataji has very kindly lifted the curtain and spoke about these pastimes and told us where we can actually get some experience of the sweetness of these pastimes by wandering in Vrindavan and hearing in Vrindavan, hearing these pastimes by devotees who are actually sadhus. But it is very difficult actually for someone who is contaminated by the modes of material nature, who one time I was in Delhi temple and I was teasing the devotees a little bit, and I said, I was talking about, the class was on you're not your body, you're not your body, you're not your body, you're not your body, and everyone of course knows they're not their body. And then at the end of the class I said, a lot of you sort of have the same features. How many of you are Punjabis? And like everyone raised their hand. And we caught you. Because it's so difficult actually to get free from the bodily concept and actually Srimad Vacharya says that Krishna will give us that realization when we are ready, when we need it. And when do we need it? When we have real desire to serve to serve Krishna instead of the senses, instead of the mind. It really takes, after such a nice class, I don't want to make everyone miserable, sorry. But it really takes unselfishness to really understand. It takes the absence of false ego to enter into this, because real ego is Gopi Bharta Parakamalayo Dasa Dasana Das. That's who we really are. We belong to Krishna. And in Vrindavan, Krishna is mine, as we just heard in Srimati Radharani's moods. Krishna is mine, is dominant. But before we think of Krishna as mine, we also have to think that I am Krishna's, and not just say it, but act in that way. Act as Krishna's what? Krishna's servant. Mama evangso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. So just to give some hints, and then I found something interesting that really tells, Mahaprabhu is revealing how we can develop this kind of mood and this kind of rasa. And Krishna willing, I'll be able to read that at the end. But first, in Sri Kavi Kanapur, who amazingly enough in Chaitanya Charitamrita it describes that when he was just a boy, what happened? What happened? Come on, someone will have to not be shy. What happened? Yeah, but what happened to Kavi Kanapur? Yeah, but even but even more than that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pushed his toe inside the mouth of this young boy, and then he sucked it. That means that he was going to be used by Mahaprabhu. Tasting the nectar of the lotus feet, Mahaprabhu wanted to use him because he was so qualified. And that is actually the desire of Krishna. That's the mood of Braj, to be used to give Krishna pleasure. So Kavi Kanapur, in his Ananda Vrindavan Champu, he describes something about the Leela where Nanda Maharaj is kidnapped right after Govardhan Leela in the 28th chapter of 10th canto. Nanda Maharaj, he observes Ekadasi, and then he bathes in the Jamuna at Nandagat. Raise your hand if you've been to Nandagat. Only go to Hari. You've never been to Nandagat. You have to go, of course. So amazing. Because the cowherd men were with Krishna. And Nanda Maharaj went into the water, and the pastime goes that he entered a little bit early at the wrong time, and he was taken away by the servants of Varuna Dev. So what does it look like from the surface? He enters the water, and the Varuna Dutas take him away. So what does it look like? I heard someone say it. It looks like he drowned. So the residents of Vrindavan, they love Nanda Maharaj so much. They love Nanda Maharaj. There was no thought, oh, he's the in charge, so therefore we have to, he's drowning and tears will come out, but actually now I can. No, they loved him. And even Upananda was elder to Nanda Maharaj, and because everyone loved Nanda Maharaj so much, he said, you be the in charge, you be the king. So when Nanda Maharaj entered the water, The cowherd men, they just cried and cried and cried, but not just cried, they cried out to Krishna. They just cried, and this is the habit of the residents of Vrindavan, that no matter what happens, difficult, easy times, they just cried out to Krishna, because this is what Gargacharya, he told them, Anena sarva durgani yanjan yunjas tarishyati. If you call out to Krishna, he will always protect you. Now, very interesting, Gargacharya told Nanda Maharaj, we keep this a secret, so don't tell anyone. But everyone in Braj knew. Why? It's just like ISKCON. There's no secrets in a village. So they all cried out, Krishna, Krishna. And even though Krishna was not nearby at that time, immediately he came. Immediately he came. Because this is Krishna. Because he can appear immediately to anyone, actually, who calls out to him with that type of insistence, with that kind of love, that kind of need. And that's really, and Prabhupada, when he first, in the very early days of the movement, the first translation of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra he gave us was just that. And he said it was like, oh, please engage me in your service. Oh, Krishna. Oh, Lord, oh, energy of the Lord. Oh, Krishna, oh, Srmati Radharani. Please engage me in your service. Please engage me in your service. Oh, Krishna, oh, Srmati Radharani, please allow me to serve you. So that pastime is, of course, wonderful, and I would love to tell it, but I won't. When Kavi Kanapur says that somehow or another, because even though Krishna had, Varunadev had taken Krishna and Nanda Maharaj and done something very improper, still Krishna was attracted to him enough to want to go and see him and give him his darshan. So what I wanted to say is that everyone in Vrindavan heard that Krishna had entered the water. First Nanda, who everyone loved, entered the water. And then Krishna entered the water to save Nanda Maharaj. So it looked like Nanda had drowned. And it looked like Krishna had drowned. And the reaction and Krishna told Balaram, you stay here on the bank. You don't come with me. Because when Mother Yashoda hears that I have entered the water, that Nanda has entered the water, and that I have entered the water, she will die, practically speaking. So you have to stay here. Because in the Kaliya pastime, Balaram was saying, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. So everyone trusted Balaram. So you stay here and just make sure Yashoda Maya doesn't enter the water. So Balaram stayed, but all the Brijbasis came. And Srimati Radharani, when she heard that Krishna had entered into the water, her love in separation, this is how Kavi Kanapur describes it, became so intense. She, who with the blinking of her eye felt separation from Krishna, Varaha Bhav, when she thought that Krishna had entered the water, she died, practically speaking. She fainted. And there was so much pain in her heart that she was saved by murcha, which means unconsciousness. So she was unconscious, And all the Sakis who were with her thought that she was practically dead. So they took some cotton swab and put it by her nostrils. They saw she was breathing. And then one intelligent Saki said, "Krishna's here, he's returned." So immediately she awoke and then looked ahead and saw Krishna was not there. And she just stared out in the greatest of pain. Pain means ecstasy on this level, and we can't understand pain equals ecstasy on this level. So therefore we think pain is pain and ecstasy is... But it's not like that. This is the transcendental level on which these pastimes take place, having nothing to do with the material world. When Mahaprabhu was discussing with Ramananda Roy, or Mahaprabhu was causing Ramananda Roy to speak, and Mahaprabhu kept asking him to speak more and more deeply. What is the goal of life? His question, Mahaprabhu was asking the question, what is the goal of life? What is the goal of life? This is a question that we should ask ourselves regularly. What is the goal of my life? What do I actually want? Not the right answer, but what do I actually want from my life? And when I do this with myself, I know the right thing to say, so I say that in my mind, even though no one's there. But then I ask, well, what do you really want? Not only what do you want, but what do you really want, actually? And it's problematic, the answers that come. So Ramananda Roy, like the cloud pouring water on the source of the cloud's water, was told Mahaprabhu, finally, after going through Vidhi Marg, Gyan Misra Bhakti, Vidhi Marg, then Rag Marg, and then Dasya Bhav, then Vatsalya, Sakya, and then Vatsalya, and then Madhurya Ras. Then he describes something about the dealings of Radha and Krishna, and then he describes the qualities of Krishna. And then, as David Shakti Mataji was saying, describes the 25 qualities of Srmati Radharani. And then Mahaprabhu says, yes, tell me more. He was so eager to hear, tell me more. And then describing as the dealings between Radha and Krishna. And then finally, when Ramananda Roy said, there's something I have to say, you want more and more and more, but I don't know whether you want to hear what I'm going to say. And he said, speak, Mahaprabhu. And then he spoke some words of his own that he himself had written. And they're basically that in separation and in union, together in the most intimate way or separated, because of the intensity of love, there's no difference. There's no difference on that level. So then Mahaprabhu, oh yes, I was talking about Srmati Radharani, how she reacted when Krishna entered the water. So she went into this mood of separation. That of course we can't understand, but by the grace of Kavi Kanapur and we can just get some glimpse from a great distance of what it was like. When they told her that Krishna is here, she came, he's returned, and then when she saw he wasn't, she just stared with her two lotus eyes, looking ahead. She could not move. And then one of the Sakis said, don't worry, Krishna will be here in a moment. A moment. And Kavi Kanapur describes what Radharani was thinking when she heard he'll be here in a moment. She was thinking that if for me a moment seems like a yuga, thousands and thousands of years, it is not my fault that this suffering is unbearable. And tears started pouring from her eyes. And her golden face, because she was wearing kajal, her golden face was decorated with the tears with blackish streaks. This is Mahabhav. This is love for Krishna. This is Prema Bhakti. When Mahaprabhu, in the second chapter of Madhya Lila, which describes a summary of the final part of Antya Lila, when Kaviraj Goswami, who had heard from all the Goswamis and was a poet, fully realized, and the most humble of all souls, he describes, Mahaprabhu is in a mood of separation, and he's with his most intimate devotees, Srup Damodar Ramananda Roy, and then he's talking like a madman about how he, in the mood of Srmati Radharani, is missing in Krishna and can't live a moment without Krishna, and yet Krishna doesn't seem to be there, and yet she's experiencing Krishna in her feeling that Krishna is not there, and his consciousness, in the mood of her consciousness, is erupting in ecstasy with tears and trembling, and where is Krishna? And then he says, I will open my heart to you. Please know this is true. I should read it because I won't get it just right if I don't read it. This is from Madhya 2. He said, Mahaprabhu says, you should know that these tears that are coming from my eyes the doors of grief in his heart, in separation, ecstasy, were erupting. He was feeling morose, miserable, humble, and disappointed. Now this is all on the transcendental platform. And he recited a verse again and again with a despondent, sad heart. If by chance the transcendental form of Krishna comes before the path of my vision, my heart, injured from being beaten, will be stolen away by Krishna. No matter whether Krishna was there or not, she only saw Krishna. Because I could not see the beautiful form of Krishna to my heart's content, when I again see his form, I shall decorate the phases of time with many jewels. That time when I can see Krishna is most worshipable. And every other time when I can't see Krishna is meaningless. So there's much and yet Mahaprabhu in that mood says, Topics about Krishna are like waves of nectar. If such nectar does not enter one's ears, the ear is no better than the hole of a damaged conch shell. That ear is created for no purpose. It is useless. This is the mood of a devotee. This is what Mahaprabhu was doing two things at one time, always. He's relishing and he's teaching. This is described in the 4th chapter of Adi Lila. He's teaching, but yet he's relishing how we can come to a most elevated platform. The verse that I was looking for has escaped my eyes. Here it is. My dear friends, you are my life and soul, because they were together with Krishna in service, in loving service. These friends are real friends. I tell you that I possess, this is Mahaprabhu speaking, no wealth of love for Krishna. Nahi Krishna premadan. Daridira mora jivan. There's nothing. My life is daridira, poverty-stricken. I have nothing. So when I read this, it causes naturally introspection, because Mahaprabhu was teaching. What do I value in life? What do I really want? My life is poverty-stricken. My limbs and senses are useless. You can now know the certainty in my heart, he tells them. And after knowing my heart, you should judge whether I am correct or not. You can speak of this properly. And he began to chant another verse. Akaitava Krishna prema jena jambun nada hema. Because Kaviraj Goswami is speaking this in such sweet, metered, poetic verses. Pure love for Krishna, just like the gold from the Jambu River, does not exist in human society. If it existed, there could not be separation. Because if separation were there, if someone loves Krishna and separation is there, one could not live. Dure Shuddha Prema Gandha, Kapata Premera Bandha. My love for Krishna is far, far away. Whatever I do is actually an exhibition of pseudo, false love of Godhead. So it's interesting, Dure Shuddha Prema Gandha, even the fragrance. Because if you have something, even honey or something, there's the object and there's the fragrance of the object. Some sweet or some sabji or anything. But he says, not only is the object, love for Krishna, not there, the fragrance, not even the fragrance, na prema, Shuddha Prema Gandha, na dure, it's far away. So this is the humility that Mahaprabhu is exhibiting and teaching. And Srila Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he says that dainya and prema, they're the same. Humility and prema are the same, so therefore Mahaprabhu teaches Trinarapi Samitsina. So this goes on, and Mahaprabhu is explaining that. And here's another verse in this mood that Mahaprabhu is saying. Love for Lord Krishna is very pure. Now, listen carefully, because I'm going to ask you what you understand from this. I'll ask you first, maybe. It is very pure, just like the waters of the Ganga. And you second. It is pure like what? The water of the Ganga. It is pure. And that pure attachment to Krishna does not conceal any spot, which would appear just like a spot of ink on a white cloth. What does that mean? Please.
One doesn't see any faults in the delivery, even if there are apparent faults.
So one doesn't see any faults in it. There are no faults in someone who loves for Krishna. But there's something else, I think, too, is that when you try to love Krishna, when you say, from now on, I'm going to just serve Krishna, then all the spots, all the faults become so blazingly obvious, like ink on a white cloth. And if you don't sincerely try to love Krishna, then I can go along thinking, I'm so wonderful, I'm such a good devotee, I do this wonderful thing, and this person is faulty, and he does this, and he does this, and she does that. And the mind is so tricky that at one moment it could be thinking, yes, this person is faulty, this person is faulty, and I'm the only great one. And then at the next moment, oh, I'm so fallen, I'm so this and this and this, and I have to hide under some rock somewhere. The mind is... So when one actually tries to be a devotee or servant of a devotee, that makes one naturally very humble. These spots on the cloth become very obvious. Maybe not to anyone else, but of course they are obvious to everyone else, but they become especially painfully obvious to a devotee. Painfully obvious, painfully obvious. And then we could see the fortune that we have by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the mercy of the dust of Vrindavan, by the mercy of Krishna Balaram, by the mercy of so many kind-hearted devotees, by their hard work and service, we exist, practically speaking. So I guess I'm bringing out the point of the rarity of what prema is. But then, and this I found very interesting, as the topic goes on in the conversation between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after Ramananda Roy describes, are you still here? Oh, who are you texting? Your mommy? Huh? Oh, okay. Sorry. Sometimes I need people to tease in the class to keep everyone a little bit awake. I thought you were answering all your WhatsApp messages. Sometimes I may do that. Maybe even when I'm chanting japa, sometimes even and thinking about so many things and missing the opportunity. But in any case, after describing this very rare and wonderful, when Ramananda Roy was describing these things, Mahaprabhu even covered his mouth. You can't speak about these things, but yet he spoke about them. And then Mahaprabhu asked a question, which is a very important question and important for all of us too. He asks, does anyone know what the question he asks? I want to read the, I have it here. Now, Mahaprabhu thanks him because this was the answer to the question, what is the purpose of life? So he wasn't, again, he's speaking and he's teaching. He's relishing and he's teaching. So he was speaking that this is the purpose of each and every one of our lives too, to achieve this prema bhakti. And then he asked, now, Mahaprabhu asked, now I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't do. I'm going to read it in Bengali. So, don't arrest me for murdering the Bengali language. Mora mukhe bhakta tumi how shrota atyanta rahasya shuna sadanera katha. You are speaking, I'm sorry, that wasn't the right verse even. Yes, it is. Atyanta rahasya. Now, this is extremely mysterious what you have explained just now about this transcendental dealings between Sisi, Radha and Krishna. It is mysterious. Mysterious means, practically speaking, from the material platform, we cannot comprehend it. We cannot understand it. It is mysterious. And it's hidden in plain sight, but we cannot see it because of my material concepts. But atyanta rahasya, shuna sadanera katha, kindly, Mahaprabhu says, kindly explain the process, the sadhana by which this can be achieved. Because it sounds so subtle and mysterious and so pure. What hope do we have? And it can be very disappointing because instead of becoming humble, we can become depressed. That I'm in a process that's so difficult that what is the hope actually of getting anywhere? But Mahaprabhu asked this question, and now he's going to speak through Ramananda Roy. So Ramananda Roy responds, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are very confidential. They cannot be understood through the rasas of servitude, fraternity, or parental affection. To understand this, it has to be in a different mood. Only the gopis have the right to appreciate these transcendental pastimes. And only from them can these pastimes be expanded. And without these gopis, these pastimes between Radha and Krishna cannot be nourished. Now this word nourish is pushta. Pushta. So it is a very important word. You're going to remember it? Yeah, okay. What's your name? Arav. Nice to meet you. You're sure you're going to remember it? And what does it mean? It means, in English, nourished. Nourished. Fed and given life. Okay. It is their business. It's the business of the gopis. They have the adhikar to taste these pastimes. And without the help of the gopis, one cannot enter into these pastimes. So you have to worship in the mood of the gopis. So we all know that. You can't get it in any other way, but you have to worship in the mood of the gopis. There is no other procedure for understanding. Only then can one understand the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna. Now, here's where it even gets more interesting. So even if you've taken good rest until now, I would advise you to hear what Kaviraj Goswami says, because it is surprising and it is the key, because it describes what the mood of the gopis is. So yes, there's the Kamanuga mood where Krishna is served and Krishna is the object, but there's something else too. There is an inexplicable, ununderstandable, unexplainable fact about the natural inclination of the gopis. And here is what it is. The gopis never want to enjoy themselves with Krishna personally. There is no selfishness disguised as spiritual selfishness. The happiness of the gopis increases 10 million times when they serve to engage Sri Radha and Krishna in their transcendental pastimes. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Shall I read it again? Or did you hear it? Well, I couldn't. You heard it? Okay, what did I... The love, yeah, very good. The happiness of the gopis increases 10 million times when they serve to engage Sri Radha and Krishna in their transcendental pastimes. In bringing Radha and Krishna together. That is their happiness. Not Radhe Radhe Shyam Malade. Huh? Yeah. I once saw many years ago, I had duty bound to go to a Rasa Leela performance and somewhere, and there was a drama really well done, and Sri Radha and Krishna were sitting on a throne, and the gopis were performing a drama, and they performed such a nice drama about Sri Radha and Krishna that Radha and Krishna were so happy sitting on their throne. And Srimati Radharani said, whatever you want, you've brought us so much happiness, whatever you want, I will give you. And she said in the drama, we want Shyam. No, sorry. That's not the mood of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That's not the mood that Mahaprabhu taught. That means you're envious of Srimati Radharani and want to take Srimati Radharani from Krishna or take Krishna from Srimati Radharani. The gopis, the happiness that they experienced and bringing Radha and Krishna together was so pure that they experienced 10 million times more than if they together were with Krishna. And this gets into the intricacies of Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta with Manjari Bhav and everything like that. But here Kaviraj Goswami is not getting into the details, but he's going to give us the essence of the whole process of achievement in such a wonderful way. By nature, Srimati Radharani is like a creeper of love of Godhead, and the gopis are the twigs, flowers, and leaves of that creeper. And when the nectar of Krishna's pastimes is sprinkled on that creeper, the happiness derived from the twigs, the happiness derived by the twigs, flowers, and leaves is 10 million times greater than the derived by the creeper itself. That's how the creeper gets nourished, by the nourishment of the creeper, the twigs and the blossoms, those are the manjaris, get nourished. And then Kaviraj Goswami or Ramananda Roy says something, and listen to this, he says, you think that is wonderful, but listen to this. Actually, this, what we just heard, is not at all wonderful. So what is he going to say next? Although the gopis, Srimati Radharani's friends, do not desire to enjoy themselves directly with Krishna, Srimati Radharani makes a great endeavor to induce Krishna to enjoy himself with the gopis. And presenting various pleas for the gopis, Srimati Radharani sometimes sends the gopis to Krishna just to enable them to associate with him directly. And at such times, when Srimati Radharani has made the arrangements for the gopis to be with Krishna, she enjoys a happiness 10 million times greater than that she enjoyed through direct association with Krishna. This is the spiritual world. Now, what was the original question that Mahaprabhu asked? What is this? How to achieve it? And what was the word? Pushta. So what nourishes rasa? What nourishes love for Krishna? Now, here's the next verse. Huh?
Bringing Radha and Krishna together.
But we just heard two sides of this. Radha and Krishna, Radharani, the gopis' pleasure is to bring Radha and Krishna together, but Srmati Radharani's pleasure is to unite Krishna with the gopis. This is the spiritual world. It's pure. There's no selfishness at all. Everything is for Krishna's pleasure. But listen to this next verse. Anyonye vishuddha preme kore rasa pushta. Rasa pushta. Tan sabara premi deke Krishna hoya tushta. And in this verse, the secret is given. Would you like to hear it, perhaps? Anyonye, by one another, Vasudha Preme, seeing the exchanges in Braj of pure love between Radharani and the gopis. Everything is done for Krishna's pleasure. There's no tinges in the slight, there's no spots on the white cloth of their love for Krishna, regardless of what it appears to be. It appears that they're fighting amongst the groups, but everything is done for Krishna's pleasure. This is described in Adi 4. Anyoni Vashuddha Preme Kore Rasa Pushta. That the rasa is nourished by this interaction, anyoni, this exchange between one another of this pure love. Vashuddha Preme Kore. This is what nourishes rasa. Tan sabara prema deki. And seeing this prema deki, tan sabara, exchanged amongst the devotees, Krishna hoy tushta. That satisfies Krishna. So, and then there's more, and then next Kavi, so I'll read Prabhupada's translation and the purport, his purport. The transcendental mellow, meaning rasa, is nourished, pushta, by that mutual behavior in transcendental love of Godhead, serving Krishna's pleasure by serving the other devotees, not pushing oneself forward. Sham, move aside, Srimati Radharani, move aside this one, move aside that one, move aside that one. Just moving, helping the devotees, serving the devotees in their advancement. It even reflects down to our ordinary dealings. Serving the devotees so that they advance in Krishna consciousness. And when Krishna sees, and it's not easy, and when Krishna sees this kind of love and affection, Krishna hoya tushta, Prabhupada hoya tushta. The transcendental mellow is nourished by that mutual behavior in transcendental love of Godhead. And when Lord Krishna sees how the gopis have developed pure love for him, he becomes very satisfied. And what did Prabhupada say when the devotees asked, the devotees will all want to come to see you in his last days, final pastimes, because they love you so much? What was Prabhupada's reply? But the test The test of that love will be by that cooperation after I'm gone. Sometimes I think, I wish you would have made an easier test to pass. And that shows, because that is pleasing. And it's not easy. But that is what nourishes rasa, because Krishna is pleased. This is Mahaprabhu speaking through Ramananda Roy. And it goes on. And this is the mood of the gopis. It's selfless, it's pure, it's spotless. It's for Krishna's pleasure. But is it easy? But this is the highest thing. Mahaprabhu said this is the purpose. This is the highest thing. Do we expect it to be easy? So then Ramananda Roy explains that there's not the slightest trace of lust in any of this, not the slightest trace of atmendriya priti, selfishness. It's all about pleasing Krishna. So we could see that, or at least I could see myself, putting this as the standard, and then naturally there should be some humility coming to my heart. And then when there's humility, then there can be the proper kind of chanting. So, of course, I resist this so much, but yet here it's saying. And again, there's verses just explaining this. And then the conclusion of this section is just makes the point again. Unless one follows in the footsteps of the gopis, he cannot attain the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. If one is overcome by the knowledge of the Lord's opulence, he cannot attain the Lord's lotus feet, even though he's engaged in devotional service. So this mood is very wonderful. And it's Kamanuga too. And then it's based on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, but this purity, the purity is the force. And here is, anyway, I've said it enough times. Now, I wanted to end by reading. I would have loved to have projected it, but I don't have the ability. But it's a very simple prayer that Srila Rupa Goswami composed of 10 names of Radharani. So I'll read it one time, and then maybe we can, and I'll say what the names mean, and then we could all say it together and attain the benediction. Because there's a nice benediction. So I'll read it first. Radha Damada Presta Radhika Varshabhanavi Samasta Balavi Vrinda Damu Tansamalika Krishna Priyavali Mukhya Gandhava Lalita Saki Vashakya Sakya Sukhini Hari Ridringa Manjari. Those are 10 names of Srimati Radharani. First name is Radha. Second name, Damada Presta. What does Damada Presta mean? Dear, so dear, dearest Gopi to Lord Damodar. Then Radhika means the greatest worshipper. Anayo Aradhito Nunam. And then Varshabhanavi, the daughter of King Samasta Balavi Vandal Damu Tansamalika. She who is the crowning garland of malika flowers on the decorated braided hair of the gopis. Means that she's the jewel, like that, of all the gopis. Krishna Priyavali Mukhya. She's number one of all the beloveds of Krishna. Gandhava, Gandhava, she is an expert singer and musician. Lalita Saki, friend of Lalita. Vishaka Sakyasukini, that she is who gets happiness from the friendship of Vishaka Devi. And Hari Ridbringa Manjari, she is the flower blossom, like a blossom, a beautiful, fragrant, dewy, chameli, malika flower attracts the bees. So she attracts the bee of Krishna's heart, Lord Hari's heart, with her fragrance of love. Okay, you ready to repeat it after me? I'll say it one line at a time. Radha Damodar Preshta, Radhika Varshabhanavi, Samasta Balavi Vandal, Dam Imalotanksa Malika, Dam Ilotansa Malika. That was 5. Krishna Priyavali Mukhya, Gandhava Lalita Saki, Vasakya Sakya Sukini, Hari Ridbringa Manjari. So that was the 10 names. Imam Vrindavanishwarya, Dasanama Manorama, Ananda Chandrika Nama, Yo Rahasyam Stutim Patet, Saklesha Rahito Bhutva, Bhuri Sobhagya Bhushita, Twaritam Kuruna Patram, Radha Madhavayor Bhavet. He who reads or recites this rahasya, this very secret prayer, confidential prayer, which bears the name, the title, Ananda Chandrika, the moonlight of bliss, and which is beautiful with the 10 names of the Queen of Vrindavan, that person becomes free of all troubles and decorated with great good fortune. He or she becomes the object of the mercy of C.C. Radha Madhava. Hare Krishna. So before closing, I'd like to say that somehow or another, 1 year ago, I had the fortune of also giving the class on Radhastami. And I had just come in from the West, and His Holiness Kadamba Kanamraj was giving the class at the same time. So I said to him, could you please give the class first? And he said, yeah, if that's what you want. He was in such a, he was so, and it was near the time, a few months later he was gone. And he gave such a wonderful class on Srmati Radharani. And then in the last remaining days and weeks and months of his life, he was amazing. You'd almost not even know that he was close to dying. And there was so much pain, but he was just so fixed in preaching and service, and his inspiration by Srila Prabhupada and his Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj, that he was so strong. He was so strong in his determination and devotion and his love for Chaitanya Charitamrita and his love for Vrindavan and love for the deities. He was just so strong and fixed, and we miss his association very dearly. Yeah. His Holiness Kadamba Kanamraj. Hare Krishna. Okay. So looking at the begins at 10:15, I believe. Yes. Yeah. Any questions? I'll try my best.